Howdy folks, Spencer here, and we just had a ton of ships get announced on the latest 10 Forward stream, and I just wanted to quickly go through and just talk about them. And there's not a ton of information for all of them, but at least we have a heads up that some of these things are coming, and we'll also have a better idea of how things are going to shape up ship-wise over the next 6 or so months. So the ship you see up on screen now is actually the winter event ship for this year, and it is a Fakiri Escort. They said that this is a very small ship. It is comparable in size to some of the Fakiri frigate pets that some of the previous Fakiri ships had. So not that big of a ship. And throughout the course of this 10 Forward stream, Jeremy and Kale interacted with chat, and Jeremy just went and showed us the process for designing a ship that, just getting some ideas for the stats of it. And they did take player input on the stream, but none of the player input, none of the stats that they showed on the stream is final. It is possible that these things will be tuned by the time we end up getting the ship later this year. So this ship, I know not everyone's going to be a fan of, but throughout the stream, they went over the bridge officer seating, the weapon setup, and for the bridge officer seating, if I can find it here, the bridge officer seating, what was ended up being settled on was a lieutenant commander temporal operative seat, and then either an ensign or lieutenant intel seat. Now, I know some of you may be hoping for miracle worker, but remember, event ships never have a primary specialization seat. Event ships are always meant to be tuned down to be less good, basically, compared to the ship that you would pay for, because they are free ships. They're still good enough to get through the content, but they don't want to give out an event ship that, is going to have the exact same bridge officer seating that you would see on a promotional or lockbox ship or even a C-store ship. They still want people to have a reason to need to go out and buy those, higher tier ships, or the better built, better designed ships. So they also went through the stats, the weapons, things like that. If I go through here, what was, obviously 5.2, a 5.2 weapon setup was highly demanded from everyone in chat. Not really a surprise there. And then for the consoles, there was initially an idea of 5 tac consoles, 2-inch for science, but given the temporal operative seating and the somewhat secondary science focus of the ship, there were some suggestions to have 5 tac and 5 psi consoles and then just a single inch console. I don't know if they'll follow through on that, but we'll have to wait and see. And for the final bridge officer seating, I'll have to scroll through here. Here we go. This is really hard to see, and this is just because the resolution on their streams is just absolutely terrible. It's 720p, so not the highest quality to go off here, for the picture quality, that is, and I do apologize for that. Nothing I can do. But we've got a commander tac, a lieutenant tactical with intel, an ensign engineer, lieutenant commander science, and a lieutenant commander universal with temporal operative. So I don't know if they're going to keep that setup. I thought that was quite close to the Mirror Strikewing Escort, but if they keep a setup like that and the weapon setup is like 5.1 or 5.2 in the end, it'll be a fairly solid energy weapon platform especially for an event ship. But for some of the other ships that they showed off on the stream here, they didn't actually show any ship models off, but what happened is that as they were looking through some of the spreadsheets early in, they accidentally showed some bits on the spreadsheet here. Now, some of it was very much intentional, but some of it does seem to maybe have been an accident. A notable one that they were talking about is the Farragut from Strange New Worlds. And this is one that they explicitly called out a couple times. This was the ship that Kirk was flying in Strange New Worlds. So I'm not too big a fan of the way this ship was laid out visually, but I know some of you are going to be very interested in that. Now, for the stats on it, I don't know the weapon setup. All we know is that it's a cruiser and it has a commander engineer with temporal operative. It's got either an ensign or lieutenant pilot, and it's coming from a lockbox. That's all we know stat wise. So if you ask me, what the weapons are on this, I don't know. If you ask me, what the console layout or the rest of the bridge officer seating is, I don't know. This is all we know about the ship, is this grab that I got off the stream. So temporal operative, and then an ensign or lieutenant pilot. I know being temporal operative, that'll be good enough for most people. They can do beam overload with it and then use recursive. But the pilot seating on it, it's probably not going to be. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see the entire seating on it, but uh, doesn't stand out a ton to me so far. Now, the other ships that they showed off here are for a variety of bundles and just releases next year. So we see here that 2 of these are for the next anniversary bundle. You see that with the Feb bundle here. And these are just 2 of the ships in the bundle. So we only see the tactical ones here. We're not seeing the engineering or science ones because they didn't have those on this spreadsheet. The first one is the Aquarius Raider. Now, the Aquarius is a ship that is very old. There is a tier 5 version of it, but I don't think there's even a tier 6 one of it yet. And this is the ship that is docked under the Saucer of the Odyssey class. And if you have the T5 Audi or one of the T5 Audis, there's a console to have this ship detached from the Saucer, I think, and like go out and attack. I think it's the Saucer. It's attached somewhere to the Odyssey. I might be wrong about it being the Saucer. It might be the other part of the ship. Someone can correct me in the comments. But it's something that was attached to the Odyssey class, and they did make it available as a standalone ship way back in 2012. This is one of those ships where you could just buy it for 200,000 fleet credits. There is also another fleet version of it that costs 20,000 fleet credits and like 4 fleet ship modules. But none of the ships are, neither version is that good. It's a ship that has been very heavily outdated. This is a ship that's over a decade old. So it being a raider is interesting, and they have a lot of flexibility with what they want to do with it. But if it's anywhere near as good as the Advent was with the 2022 anniversary bundle, then this will probably be a good ship. Then we also have the Hestia that's going to be in the anniversary bundle. The Hestia is the Prometheus class. If you're not sure of the origins of the Prometheus class, it's the ship that the Doctor in Voyager had transported to when they were trying to contact Starfleet. He boarded the ship. He was like transferred to it via some subspace network. And as he was doing it, Romulans were attacking the ship and trying to take it over. So if you remember that episode, this is the ship from that episode, the Prometheus class. The Hestia is the T6 version, and it's a bit dated. It came out in 2015, so 7 years old. 4-3 weapon setup, a single spec seat, and it's a lieutenant commander engineer with command. So this was an okay torque boat way back, but you don't see anybody using this thing anymore. So it'll be nice to see an improved version of this ship. And again, it's been 7 years since the last version of it was put into the game, so they have a lot of flexibility with how they could improve this ship. And before I get into the legendaries, let's talk about this early 2023 bundle. And the first ship that they have for it is the Patrol Escort. The Patrol Escort is another very old ship. I don't think that there has been a T6 version yet. So what was unique about this ship is that it was one of the last T5 ships. And it came out all the way back in 2014. And this ship had a 4-4 weapon setup, but it was an escort. And the fourth weapon was a fixed aft tail gun. So that sounds pretty weird. Yeah, I can imagine. And it was. In practice, this wasn't that functional. It was an aft weapon that didn't really do much for you because typically, if you're flying your ship right, the enemy is going to always be in front of you and you're firing her. So this was a neat concept, but didn't have much practical use. The ship itself was fine. It was really popular for a while for like doing no-win scenario way back before they ruined no-win. And it had a console on it called the Nadion Saturation Bomb, which basically shot out a bunch of phaser charges that would do a ton of damage. But the last time I used this, the phaser damage from this didn't really scale up well to like level 65 and the HP that entities currently have. So nevertheless, it'll be interesting to see how they revamp the ship. If they could give us an improved version of that Nadion Saturation Bomb console, that'd be really interesting. That'd be a really good boost for phaser builds if they could do that. And the last thing here are these two legendary ships. Well, it's one legendary ship, and it's going to be that they have two options for it. They can either do an Akira or the Valdore. And they have it listed as them wanting to do a Strike Wing Escort. So the Akira, the version of that in the game right now is the Alita. That's the tier 6 version, but this is a popular ship from I think it was shown in First Contact, spamming out some photon torps towards the Borg cube while defending Earth. And the ship in the game, it used to be really popular, but the T6 version of it had a very underwhelming bridge officer setup. You see here, it's got a lieutenant commander engineer with pilot. So it's got a single spec seat, and that spec seat is pilot on a lieutenant commander's sabot. So the Akira just didn't age very well, and there's quite a bit of potential for them to come in and make a really good, Strike Wing Escort out of the Akira here. The bridge officer seating can be massively improved from what it had, and it does have a hangar bay, being a Strike Wing Escort. But the Tier 6 version and the Tier 5 both had 4-3 weapon setups. But the nice thing about the Akira, and if a dev is listening, please change this here. The console off the Tier 5 Akira is really good. And I used this when I was doing my Photon build on this ship about a year and a half ago. The torpedo point defense system is a console that is bound to this ship. I would love for it to not be bound so I could use it on anything. But this console will let you fire out a ton of photon torpedoes at a ton of nearby targets. It's really fun to use, but it's bound to these ships. So if they can lean into the torpedo spamming with this legendary version of this, that'll be really good. I'm pretty sure we can brainstorm some ideas on how to make a good bridge officer seating out of this ship for torpedo boats. But I think if they wanted to really lean in to the way that the Akira has been portrayed, given the past consoles it has, and what it was seen doing in the movies, I think a torpedo spamming build on this, meaning a heavy command focus, would be really popular. And if they don't want to do the Akira, the alternative they have there is the Valdore. The Tier 6 version of the Valdore is the Morgu. It's also known as the Mogai. And the Mogai is a ship that I really liked using back in the day. This was the Romulan ship that had emergency weapon cycle. It was really popular for a little bit there, but overall, it just hasn't aged well because of the weapon setup. 4-3 weapon setups just simply aren't that popular anymore, and this is another case where we had a 4-3 weapon setup. So if they go down the route of going and making a legendary Valdore, it'd be interesting to see how they could boost it up. Obviously the weapons changing that. The weapon setup on there could be interesting. Honestly, I would say if they do a legendary Valdore, the way that I would want to see it built out, ooh, probably a commander miracle worker and a lieutenant or lieutenant commander intel. I think that'd be really nice with like a 5-2 setup. I know that that would be close to like the VOD War Juggernaut, but I just always thought that the Morgu should be a really good offensive energy weapon platform. And if it had that combo of Merrick Worker and Intel, it could be a really good platform to do that. So, none of this is set in stone, to be clear, too. This could all change, but at least now we have an idea of what's coming out. I think this gives us a good idea that the next anniversary bundle in February is going to again be a Terran bundle, just like it was this year. That means that they might have in a lockbox or promo ship as the special item to incentivize us to buy the entire bundle again. And them revisiting some older ships here does have me a bit excited because, I know there are some people interested in, the newer shows, but I do think it's nice to see some of the older ships getting some love again. So let me know what you think down below. These leaks, it's nice that we have information ahead of time. I know that not everyone likes leaks. I know that some people prefer to have that surprise, when it is just about to come out. But I like to plan ahead, and especially with the Dilex being as is, it's good to have this information so we can know that, hey, we need to save and be prepared for these things in February or, early 2023. That's going to be it for me today. Once again, thank you to all for the continued support. More STO videos coming soon, and a no game video once I have time. But that's going to be it for me today. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time.